live at Transform for the Transform Dialogues, one of our first episodes, People, Culture, and the Future of Work, part of the People Strategy Leaders podcast. And I'm Zach.
And
we're joined by
Adam Weber.
Adam. Excited to have this conversation with you. You're also speaking here at Transform, which is really exciting. Share a little bit about yourself. What are you working on?
Yeah, I'm an executive coach. I basically work with two types of people. I work with early stage founders, which I had two startups that I've exited from in the past. And then I also served as a chief people officer in my last startup. And so I also help chief people officers, mostly focused on expanding their influence, balancing like the intensity of the job and maintaining like your sense of wholeness in the midst of that. And like just growing as a person, maximizing who you're capable of being, that sort of thing.
That's gotta be a really exciting space. Obviously, the people officer space is kind of a role that's continued to grow into a larger strategic position. And then also you're very tapped into the founders themselves. What are some of the things you're noticing? Like, what are some of the things they're dealing with, challenges, or top of mind for some of these leaders?
Yeah. For founders or for chief people officers? Which one do you want me to start with?
Yeah, let's start founders.
I think founders, the game is like different than it was 5 years ago. Like the endless budgets and endless spend is just not there. And so basically controlled spend, and then how do you maximize the output of your team and gain rapid alignment, rapid collaboration to drive performance is kind of like the main topic. I think for them, and then, you know, what they're talking to me about too, though, is like I do think, and this is similar with both roles, there's a pressure and a weight that is just so constant in both of those two jobs.
Yeah.
And so then the people that are succeeding are the ones who are able to like not dismiss that weight, because it's not something you can just make go away, but really face it and then still be able to show up with a calm, steady presence to really lead people. Like, because there's two types of founders and everybody's listening. If there's founders, you know, if there's employees listening right now who work with founders, it's like there's the founder with the chaotic idea that comes up all the time. It's like they'll go to an offsite retreat, build a strategy, 2 weeks later go, never mind, I take it all back. There's a new idea I just heard of. And everyone else in the company is just like, it's like whiplash, right? And so you're trying to kind of help that person truly learn how to prioritize and truly learn what's important. But also, like, you don't want to lose that magic either. That's a really unique personality that can force momentum. So that's probably on the founder side. Those are a few of the things that I'm talking about.
What about the chief people officer side? Do you feel like those roles are aligned as well in some of these things? Or is there a whole different priority list, top like challenge list that they're facing?
I think the big thing right now that comes up a lot is like trying to expand their influence outside of the people function and like really understanding what their role is in that. Like I always challenge a chief people officer of like, you should be the most important person on the exec team other than the CEOs. And you are, because you have the benefit of having the holistic vantage point. Like when I was an executive over the sales function, yes, I was still an executive. I contributed, but I was very much like over my territory, right? Like whereas the people function is really at its best, a function that looks above and does look kind of at the rest of the organization. But there's like a trepidation with chief people officers and really asserting that level of influence inside the organization. Spotting misalignments between departments is like a classic thing that a chief people officer right now, I think, needs to grow in. I think, honestly, here's like, if you're talking about the future of work, here's my like future of work, chief people officer, hottest take I have. There are so many jobs that exist right now in the workforce that are either don't need to exist already or are about not to. And being bold enough to recraft a vision and basically recraft jobs inside of the company. Leverage the talent you have, upskill that talent or train them, have a really great learning culture, and then be willing to like go, hey, I'm just going to go bold here. The sales development role inside your company, we don't need that anymore. We actually need people that do event-based follow-up. And this is, or we need half as many people to do this role. And just taking a little bit more of like an assertive approach toward how you manage talent inside the company.
Why do you think there is that trepidation? What gets in the way of that chief people officer expanding into those other breaking down these things?
Well, there's a lot. It's a great question. It's kind of complicated. Like, I wish there was like a simple answer. I think a lot of it is internalized rejection. And I also think there's like a reality that a lot of other sales product is a good example where like when you grow up through those functions, you are so used to being told no and still pushing. You're like, nope, no, you don't, and then you just like lean in. And whereas there's this like tension with the chief people officer a lot of times on executive teams because they're also just humble. I think they're the best people on like human beings. They're great human beings, but oftentimes that can create like a lean back posture versus like a lean forward posture. But it's different for everybody. And it's also hard for the rest of the executives because it's kind of a new concept. It's not a well-worn path. Like a well-worn path at companies is like a CFO who always says no the first time you bring an idea to them. We've been doing that for 100 years. People are very used to it. This kind of forward-leaning chief people officer that's driving high performance and adjusting roles and spotting issues of cross-departmental lack of collaboration and creating steadiness inside the culture is kind of fresh. And so anytime things are fresh, I do think human beings just are resistant, and other executives are territorial. And a lot of times we're talking about areas that I wouldn't say they own, but they're not certain who owns it. And so the territory is not fully defined as well.
And that's actually been a pretty ongoing theme within our network as well with chief people officers about like, okay, what are the skill sets, the characteristics of a very high level executive chief people officer? And assertiveness and conviction tends to be a common theme that has come up quite a bit this year, where there's almost like a growing responsibility being called upon the CPO to assert themselves into these strategic dialogues on how the company is taking a people first strategy to whatever they're trying to do as a business, right? And obviously AI and the emergence of that. And you already talked about like the future headcounts and what is relevant and what isn't. And people officers are also trying to decide like, okay, is this a headcount problem where we're going to have to hire someone, or do we need to build an AI new bot or agent as an employee? But how do we maintain a human first approach to the organization? And I think a lot of that stems to this pressure, maybe on the founder side. I'm curious of your thoughts, if you could share more about this, of going back to the performance and being a high performing organization and continue to scale and grow. And we're kind of back to that core priority as a business. How has that pressure shown up in your founder CPO conversations?
It shows up a lot. Although I will say when we talk about performance and this wave back to performance, I do think most people like fundamentally are pretty misguided about it. And what I mean is like, people say performance, what it feels like people are actually getting back to is, I call it the frustrated frank leader, just like who's mad all the time and kind of looks around and decides if people are productive based on how busy they look and like how stressed they are and how long they're sitting in an office, return to work, but ultimately, like, it's shocking how many employees don't know what they're supposed to be doing every day as an individual. And then let's just say they did know what to do and then they finished their job, how little context they have about the big initiatives of the business, so that when they have extra time, they can drive it forward. So when I think about performance, I go, what are the ways that we gain radical alignment from every single layer inside the organization about what the most important things are? How do we keep it top of mind? How do we talk about it? How do we tie an individual's role directly to it, give them feedback on it, give them feedback when they're not doing it? And like, to me, that is a high performance culture. And what I love about that is you can still do that and be a good human being in the process. Like, that's just it's not, that, like, I call it this kind of high care, high performance balance, where you're going, we're going to set really reasonable but stretching high bar expectations for you. We're going to give you clarity on how you're doing against that. And we're going to support you along the way, but also we have a high bar. So it's like, we'll be real with you as it's, how it's going throughout as well. Yeah.
It feels like the mid-level manager in that situation is such a critical component, and it's missed. They just they fly under the radar. they get promoted into their role because they were so good at their job.
Yeah.
They don't know how to lead.
And-
They haven't been given that training skill.
Yeah, you basically just said, so before it was at a coach, had an employee engagement measurement company, measured 1 million employees, right? And if I were to summarize 10 years worth of data, like there's two main issues. I'm just going to talk about one. The other one we can get to if you want. It's a little spicy, but we'll see. One is individual contributor gets promoted to manager. And then at larger companies, that happens at scale. And so havoc is wreaked across the org. What they do technically is management is a learned skill. The company doesn't have a great training infrastructure. So they do what they've always done is the other people's jobs. And they're good at it. So initially it looks like it's going well. They're doing 3 people's jobs, carrying it on their back. They get burnt out, hit a breaking point, get frustrated with the employees. The employees are frustrated, like, I don't even know what to do. Nobody's giving me feedback. What am I even responsible for? And that cycle, then what really happens then is that manager quits, that best employee gets promoted, and then the cycle continues for 10 years. Like, it's just like an endless, that's why it was a great industry to be in.
All right, so we're coming up on time, and this is the Transform Dialogues. I would love to get in that second one, but I kind of want to leave that as a cliffhanger. So anyone listening, they got to reach out directly to you to get the answer. But this is the Transform Dialogues, and I'm curious, do you have any bold predictions or thoughts about the future of work, the future of people and tech? I don't know. Yeah, any thoughts as this next wave comes through?
You never know the future. If I had to boldly guess one thing, I would say, even at this conference, everyone is dramatically underestimating how big of a deal deepfake interviews are going to be. Like, wow. It's and how close we are. Like, I was talking to a chief people officer yesterday, like at the conference. She's interviewed 3 on a video back and forth. And I was like, it's not just stuff. It's not like one random blog. Like, once it hits, it's going to hit. And like, there's not enough vendors here that are addressing that, they'll solve this. There's not enough training to help the teams understand. And so it's totally unknown, and it's going to create a lot of issues. And I have no idea what the solution is. I just want to say, and hope if I'm one of the first to say it, like, this deserves somebody's time and attention to try to solve it.
I did not even think of that. And obviously that's already shown up in media in some ways, where social media clips show up and it's a deepfake video of a politician or celebrity or something like that. But yeah, for interviewing. And I'm curious, what was the people officers' reaction? Could they tell at first, or
complicated, but yeah, they could tell, but they also happen to like have some level of experience and expertise in the issue, with the issue. So that kind of helped.
Wow.
And they showed up like multiple times.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, as we wrap up here and being at Transform, any closing thoughts on the experience, or just even to our listeners?
I know it's great to be with both of you. I really enjoyed the conversation, and appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, appreciate the time. Thanks for being part of the big conversations of the Transform Dialogues, and we'll see you out there, Adam. Awesome. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.